I'm John Weispfenning, Chancellor of the Coast Community College District. Today I want to provide an update on budget developments and where it appears we may be headed as a district. Although it's impossible to know exactly how the budget year will play out, it's vital that we stay informed because it will affect all of us. When COVID first hit, the expectation of most was that we would be back in our offices and classrooms within weeks, perhaps before the end of the spring semester. Then we thought maybe we could be back for summer school, then fall, and now some hope for spring. But even if we are able to return to our campuses next spring, COVID will have long-lasting effects on the economy. This spring, the economy all but stopped when many businesses temporarily closed. For 2 months, most people were spending money only on food, other necessities, and a few online goods. Yes, the federal government stepped in with additional unemployment benefits, now ended. That allowed many to continue to make their rent or mortgage payments. Federal assistance also allowed our district and others to pay for some of our unanticipated COVID-19 expenses. Over the summer, the state reopened some business sectors, but that was then followed by a surge in the spread of the virus. Unfortunately, even with recent slight improvements in the COVID infection numbers, it will be a long process to restore the state's economy. Right now in Orange County, there is virtually no tourism industry. Theme parks, hotels, and associated businesses are struggling to survive. Retail stores, those that are still open, have seen their sales numbers fall. All of that will continue to affect state tax revenues even after business picks up again. On paper, the state budget for this year seems to fully address the crisis. However, it also significantly downplays the impact of likely continued weakness in the economy. And that brings me to what we've been trying to do here at the Coast District. The executive team voluntarily took pay reductions and suspended our step and column raises. The Board of Trustees approved a reduction in their stipends. Because we're all in this together, I asked our labor groups to consider suspending step and column salary adjustments before the new budget year began on July 1. This would allow our full-time employees to continue to receive the same salary in the new budget year that they had earned the previous year. I know many of you expect and rely on your annual adjustments, and not receiving them is unfair to workers newer in their time with the district, but it is the least painful way to take a first step. The classified staff of CFCE stepped up and voted overwhelmingly to accept the suspension. I thank you and your union leadership. Management and confidential staff also accepted suspension of step and column, and I thank them. And we remain in conversation with CFE leadership. I've heard questions about why we're doing this before we have a full understanding of our budget situation. It's most likely the economy and state budget will get worse, perhaps much worse, before it gets better again. Unfortunately, we do not have the level of reserves to carry us comfortably through the challenges we think are ahead. Over the past 8 years, when the economy was good, the district used its revenues to fill the needs left from the Great Recession. At the same time, our enrollments began a slow decline due to fewer high school graduates in Orange County. That's why getting started with relatively small steps is so important. If we had waited, any required cuts would only be far deeper. That's not to say we've done everything we will need to do. If my expectations are right, we will all be asked to do more and contribute more to ensure that the district is able to continue to meet the needs of our students, classified staff, managers, and faculty. But I admit I don't have a crystal ball. So what if I'm wrong and the economy improves and our funding picture looks better? I'll be the first person to suggest paying back the suspended step and column. I sincerely hope we can do that. In this one situation, I will much prefer to be wrong. In the meantime, our fiscal teams at the colleges and district will continue to monitor the economic and other news out of Washington and Sacramento. In a couple of weeks, students will enter their fall semester, and I know all of you are anticipating those first days when we introduce ourselves to new students, welcoming them to Coastline College, Golden West College, and Orange Coast College. Even if this is the challenging year I expect, it can also be exciting, purposeful, and rewarding. Thank you, and stay safe.